All right, we're live. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Um, I am Joshua Kemble. I'm a freelance illustrator and graphic designer who's been doing that for over 20 years. You're going to hear on this stream, like my throat is all messed up as well as my nose. There's some kind of weird sinus thing happening. Uh, Took my COVID test clear for that, so that's good. I don't have COVID, but I just wanted to disclose that at the top in case you hear any like clearing of the throat or anything like that. I'm kind of fighting some other thing off. Um, and Other than that, I'm excited to kind of get going in to coloring a comic book page on this stream. But before I get into that, let me explain the comic book thing. So when I'm not illustrating or graphic designing, I've been an art director for the last like 8 years, and then I do these live streams while I make comics and work on my own graphic novels. Graphic novels like Jacob's Apartment, which is my slice of life coming of age story about the kinds of questions that can shake even the strongest of faith. Done in the vein of Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind or Ghost World. If those things are up your alley or of interest to you, then this book will be of interest to you as well. And then aside from that, that's available for pre-order too. And so please make sure you pre-order that from your local bookstore. And also, I have a graphic novel, my first published graphic novel, two stories, which is my tell-all sort of autobio comic in the tradition of autobiographical comics like American Splendor, um, and it tells the story of my journey, kind of dealing with depression, as well as caregiving for somebody with panic disorder, as well as some of the hypocrisies of like growing up at a Christian school, and also gets into some fun, weird childhood stories like pretending to run a mountain factory and running a whole little production line of people making mountains out of sand in the playground sandbox and fun other things like that, or dressing like Indiana Jones for an entire year. So it's a fun story that's available for purchase. I encourage you guys with this one, definitely get it through Amazon. You can also ask your local indie friendly comic shops to order it. But Jacob's Apartment, you can pre-order at any bookstore. Go to your big box chain and make sure you do that. Okay, so tonight I want to color page 13 of Not Death But Love: The Strange Mysterious Case of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is the book that I am currently working on, and I'll probably be working on for the next year to hit the publication deadline because I have to finish it about a year before it's released. And so I have about 230 pages that I have to create, and we're 13 pages into it. And I'm hoping to get those done by April. So that means a 3-day weekend means woohoo! I get to hustle and get some art done. So anyhow, that's what I'm going to be working on. But before I get into that, and the content of the stream where we do art and kind of hang out and stuff like that, I wanted to share something really cool. This morning, I woke up and this was in my local paper. Cow. Where it literally on the front page, it's telling you, okay, go to section A9. So you go to section A9. I just wanted to show this off because it's nerdy. Why not? I was excited about it. So you go to section A9 of our local Valley Press, because I live in the Antelope Valley, and voila, there's the showcase section. And let me try to get this around here so you can see. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a cool article interview with me. And that's pretty cool. And then you flip to the back page, and boom, there's Jacob's Apartment. And a nice like write up and a nice article Um, uh, Trying to get there. Okay. So you can kind of see this isn't what I was designing this stream to do, to show off like a newspaper, but I was excited, and those little things help and help promote books and stuff. So I was really excited about it. I have a link to the article as well as other interviews and reviews, and basically any write-ups or things that are talking about my books in the news interviews section, I believe, on my website. So there should be a section that actually has interviews and reviews on joshuakemble.com. So if you're ever curious, like even you want to read that article that I just showed, um, you can go there, and there should be a link to the digital version of it. But I was really excited regardless. Again, like our local paper, they have a higher readership than I think a lot of people give them credit for, because the Antelope Valley's, like, we're often overshadowed by like larger, LA area things, because we're like the very edge of LA County. But I will say we have a pretty heavy population. If you look at the population numbers, I know it's in, I think, the hundreds of thousands. So it's a pretty big city if you took it and put it in any other state. But it's just the fact that we're like in Los Angeles, and then also that everyone commutes, that I think we kind of get written out of the equation sometimes. Anyhow, but I'm glad to be in the local paper, and all press is good press. So excited about that. And that will do it. And now we're going to get into coloring some comic pages. So, whew. And we'll see if I can make it through the stream without having like a coughing attack or something like that. All right, so let's take a look at where we're at on the page. So some stuff I did during the last Artcasters. We had Gaz on, Gaz Gretzky, who's like a really good friend of the show. It was a really cool topic too. I guess I'll take these off unless we end up having a guest or something. No point in having these on. But yeah, so we had a guest, Gaz Gretzky, and we talked about like YouTube and art creation, and it was a really good conversation. And while we were doing that, I knocked this out, and then oh, cool, Christopher Runciman said, "Congratulations on the interview." Thanks, man. Yeah, I was excited about it. I was just, it's a fun thing. I have to say, I know print journalism isn't necessarily like the most modern thing, but there's something that feels good about like waking up in the morning. I was literally gassing up on the way to my job where I work as an art director, and I had heard from the interviewer that it was going to be in the paper. So I go to the gas station. I put the gas in my car, walk into the station, and just like I'm like, oh, I'll check the Valley Press, and then there it is, front page. Like it's kind of fun because I know that's distributed here in the Valley. So it's just fun. It's an old school thing being in the newspaper, but it's still, I have to say, I get a kick out of it every time it's happened. That I've been fortunate enough to have that happen. And also, it's a good reminder that I need to be on my press release game for my books. Like, so, when you guys are making books and stuff like that, don't lag on the press releases. Like, that's a huge element of what's going to sell indie books. And so, for me, that's me also reminding myself. So anyhow, so this is the page of Not Death But Love, the strange, mysterious, supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, written by my sister, and then I'm illustrating it. This is a book that we're working on for a publisher. But while we were on stream with Gaz on Thursday, I managed to pencil this page, and then quickly, yes, I believe it was like right after stream. I think it was like the day before I did some of the line art. I wrapped it up, and then I started flatting it last night while listening to Jeff Lafferty's stream, actually, which was fun. Jeff Lafferty is a friend of the Artcasters, one of the original Artcasters, and does a show that usually I end up missing because they stream about the same time we do. And so that was fun. So I ended up listening to that rather than streaming myself, and then and got this far on it. So my hope during this stream is to just finish up the flats of this page and get these flat colors done. As you can see, we've made a little bit of progress already, but it wouldn't hurt to kind of get into it. So here we go. Christopher said, it's always nice to see your efforts getting out into the world. 100%. I feel like when you make stuff, it's nice to see people paying a little bit of attention to it. Especially when you dedicate, I mean, those of us who are doing comics, it's like these things take, long periods of time and dedication to make. And so it's nice to also have that. It's nice that there are like papers and stuff like that that are interested in kind of covering and talking about graphic novels and stuff like that. So that's pretty stoked. So I have to adjust a few things on the line art here. One, I noticed I was about to get into flatting again, and I just noticed, hey, we missed this. I missed this fill area. I'm doing this comic in a really sort of old style of rendering, where basically what you do is you sort of render your line and then do flat color underneath, and it's the majority of it is just complete flat color. But with the rendering, it kind of creates this old like linotype kind of feel to it, and kind of a more Victorian vibe. I got really inspired when I was reading to my son Frog and Toad Are Friends, which I know you might look at this and think, that doesn't look like Arnold Lobel's Frog and Toad Are Friends, but a little bit of the execution, I just had noticed that he does a lot of pencil rendering and then flat color underneath. And I was like, if I ever get the option to do that for like a side project or another book, that's what I'm going to do. And then when this came along, I was like, this might actually be that project that I can do that style in. And so far, it's going pretty swimmingly. There's another thing I'm going to do, but I think I'll do it after we finish our flats, which is that, like, basically I can show you guys on the other pages. There's like a kind of weird swirly pattern that was on, like, we did all this historical research, and that's the pattern that was actually on Elizabeth Barrett Browning's blanket. And so I'm going to need to add that pattern onto the blanket here because I had missed that. But I think that's about it. Just that one panel mainly where I'm going to have to add the blanket. And I think other than that, we can kind of get moving. So let's do this. All right, let me get some flats going. Now, and again, this will probably be like maybe an hour stream. I usually do these quite early into the morning, but I'm guessing because it's not a ton to flat left, hopefully this stream will go about an hour or so. So okay, let's get into the work. Let's get into the weeds and get this stuff going. So as I'm doing this, I always like to hear what other people are working on and what kind of projects they're working on as well in the chats. If you have like a comic or creative writing project or art project that you guys are working on while listening to this, just let me know in the chats. It's fun to hear. So I'm going to deselect because I know this is the color of the wall. That's where I left off the last time. So what I'm going to do is deselect that wall color from this panel. And I do want to have a little bit of different colors coming in for the doorknob that are more kind of subtle. I think that would be good. Though some of that pattern work and stuff, I think does a little bit of the storytelling of that door on its own, because it's got like, this room had like this ornate kind of strange Victorian era wood filigree thing going on. It is funny though. One thing that's tough about graphic novels is I have been illustrating in the same area, the same location for a while now. And this is something about comics that I think a lot of people don't think about when they first get into doing sequential art, is like, you got to be kind of comfortable with drawing entire scenes that don't change location. So there are things in this room that like were fun to draw and are now less fun to draw, because I've just had to draw them so many times. Okay, so I'm going to look at this and try to find the background color. I'm pretty sure that's it. We have kind of a generic background color that I've been using throughout these sequences. And I've had people ask me if I make swatches, color swatches, and I tend to do something a little different for my own projects, partially because I find that when I make swatches and label them, and I'm working on a comic, like that's great if it's just like the color of like Elizabeth or the color of her dress or something like that. But the second we have like a costume change or something like that, it's going to be a whole different world of stuff. Corey Kerr said I should draw the clock melting in the background and see if anyone notices. Honestly, man, with the congestion and stuff that my brain's been dealing with, I think I could probably draw that and not notice myself at this point. I have to be really cognizant of that. Yeah, because it's like there are definite days, and today is definitely one of them where, man, my brain is not fully there. Corey, are you working on your animation? You're also welcome to hop on, man, if you want. I can actually have conversations with people while I do this process because it's mainly just flat coloring. So you are welcome. But no pressure. And also, if you're working on something that is not conducive for live streaming, then no pressure there either. So right now, I'm just basically deselecting the area of the drapes behind, like the curtains behind the character. I kind of do that. I want to go back to this color. Oh, I have no idea what just happened there. I need to be saving the whole time as I'm working here too. Corey said he'll hop on in a bit. That's exciting. So we'll pretty shortly possibly be having some conversations with Corey Kerr. Yeah, it's funny with these streams. I have to be really selective about when I have people on and stuff like that because, oh, what happened there? Okay, I must have accidentally hit some kind of shortcut. I don't know if you guys have seen that blurriness. All right, there was some kind of strange activity that happened there. I think we somehow feathered the edge of these selections or something. There we go. Wow, that was a lot of fun. Okay, let's try this again. See if this works out. I've learned a little trick on here, which isn't really much of a trick. It's just something I was sort of avoiding on the first few pages, where initially I was merging my rendered line with my solid line. And And like the solid line, it's great to keep separated because it's a lot easier to make selections. So I've been rocking that. Landon Huber is joining. How's it going, Landon? How are your creative projects coming along? So now we're going to go in and I'm going to deselect the areas around Elizabeth's head as well and kind of use this darker color. It's just this long, crazy road of flat coloring. Anyhow, so I showed at the top of the stream, if anybody's tuning in, like a very bad sneak peek of a newspaper article that ran this morning in my local paper, and that was pretty cool. I also posted it on Instagram in case anybody's curious. But I would encourage you guys to like actually check out the article because you can read it. Whereas I think on the Instagram one, it's more just like, I don't know, me being excited about it and being like, here's what it looks like in the paper, you know. All right. Oh, Landon. Landon rightly called out. He said it was cool seeing you in Jib's, in Jibrin's birthday video yesterday. Yeah, that was awesome. Again, like we usually go a little longer on Artcasters, and so I don't get to catch Jeff's stream live as often because quite often we're just streaming around the same time. So it was fun to kind of watch. I actually watched quite a bit of that stream live because we finished up a little earlier, and that was a fun thing. So that's part of why I didn't end up streaming after Artcasters last night. Was I kind of wanted to watch Jeff's stream and stuff. So while I was watching that, I got a lot of the flat colors and the art that I needed to get done out of the way and stuff. But yeah, that was such a rad surprise. Like Jeff made Gibran his own kind of like amazing like birthday animation. And it features Corey as well, Corey Kerr. Like there's just guest appearances from all sorts of artists from our community. But it was fun. It was just fun to see. And also, it's a fun stream to watch. Like I still enjoy Jeff and Jib quite a lot. Right now, we're doing the little details, kind of working our way through this page. And Landon was saying, that's cool of Jeff to do that for a friend. Yeah, it really is. It's kind of neat. Jeff's a pretty rad dude. I feel like things like that too, like a little, animation you went out of your way to like. And there's a really cool, like some really cool illustrations too. Like you did a cover illustration of Jib's character, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, that's a very sweet thing to do for somebody, I think. All right, so we're getting there, guys. I do want to get this corner under here. I feel like this should actually be the blanket. So we're going to do that. All right, let's get the get these corners. So flat coloring is like, it can be very creative, especially when you're establishing initial flats. But like for me, it's like until this scene changes location, the color isn't going to have a ton of variation. And so there is a little bit of a repetitive, almost like playing a video game where you're knocking out different colors one at a time, element to it. But I think I mentioned this too when we had Gaz on Art Testers yesterday, where it's like there is just this thing. Oh, I think we're joined by Corey. Okay, I got to put on my headphones so I can actually hear Corey Kerr.
It's very important that you hear everything I have to say.
All right, lay it out.
That's it. I wanted everybody to know that it's important, not that I had anything important to say.
Oh, okay. The way you went about that was such a like kind of teacher mode
of really?
Communication that it sounded like you were about to lay down the law.
Yep.
You're like, I need you to listen carefully. The world is going to be taken over by evil robots.
I got retweeted by an author that I just read his book. Speaking of the world being taken by evil robots.
Nice. It's always fun to get a retweet.
Yeah, seems like a cool guy. He writes like, it's not post-apocalyptic, but it's like near future tech horror stuff. It's like if everything in the surveillance capitalism book continued along that direction, but was fiction. It's a pretty good book.
Oh, Landon's asking, did you manage to see the Jeff's video yesterday? His birthday video?
I just caught it. I didn't catch it live.
Did you see your face in the animation?
I did. I noticed I was in there.
So Landon was saying, I might have missed it, but was Jeff was the little superhero guy flying around with a raccoon hat? No, I think that's Davy Rocket. I think that's a cartoon character by somebody else in the community.
Why am I blanking on whose that is? I know
I am too. That's why I was like trying to covertly pass by.
I'm just so terrible at names. Like I know exactly who it is.
I do too. He's been part of our community for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just bad at names. Like every time I like, okay, I'll tell you what it's like. It's like I have 2 garage doors and there's a button for each garage door.
Keith Harper.
Yeah. Right.
It was on the tip of my tongue. That was going to
No,
bug
I
me
can even see that. I can see his avatar, which is what I'm way more visual than I am good with names.
Yeah. Anyhow, Keith's a good dude, but he so Landon, that's who that character was, I believe.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I was going to say it's like every time I go to open the garage door, I open the wrong one because in my mind at the beginning, when I first opened it, it was the opposite of what I thought it should be. And so now in my brain, I know that it's the opposite of what I thought it should be, but I've lived here for 4 years. So like what I think is actually correct, but then I correct myself and it's the opposite. So I'm wrong like 80% of the time. It's the same thing. Like Ronnie and Robbie, like I know his name is Ronnie, but like in my brain, I got it wrong one time, and now
it's
I like second guess it every time. It's so annoying. My brain is annoying.
Yeah, eternally wrong now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also am notoriously bad with names in general. So it only took me about like 2 years of us hanging out, Corey, for me to get your name down. Just kidding. But it did take me a little bit. It's like it just takes me a while. I usually have to really get to know someone. Yeah. And then again, I'm a visual thinker, so I'll like blank out and then remember later. And also, I have a bit of a head cold thing again today. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
that's
the
annoying.
eternal sickness. Like I feel like it's that season, Corey, where we're
I also feel like maybe all of the other viruses got jealous and they're like,
yeah,
listen, I'm
yeah.
still a thing. And so now we're just getting the brunt of like,
They're like, look, I'm not as deadly, but colds can be really annoying, dude. And I'm gonna
right,
bug the hell out of you for like a month,
I can
like
still take you
nonstop.
out.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man.
He's coming in like like a disease to a hip hop battle. Like, you forget about me?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You think I haven't been around? I was
kid.
here
I've been making
first.
people sick since like. That is funny. I feel like we should make a comic about that. About different diseases getting jealous of other ones, dominating the
You
disease
know,
sphere.
one of these days, Josh, you're gonna be rich enough to like hire an intern, and every time you say we should make a comic about that, you could pay the intern to make a comic about that.
You know,
It'd be
I
great.
I will
We'd
say
have we'd have
did a
kayaking
little
bears and
I did a little bit of freelance work for Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, like his production company years ago,
yeah,
and working in that environment was like that. Like, he'd come up with some weird idea and just tell an intern, and then they'd disappear, and like 2 hours later they'd show up with whatever it was. It's like it like down to like what he wanted to eat, where he'd just be like, I don't know, I feel like importing something from Turkey today or something. And it's like the next day, like the next second, he's got like the import in the mail showing up and like five assistants that are like, yes, sir. It was really weird. I
yeah,
mean, I guess it makes sense because I guess the guy's had a lot of success as a songwriter, and there's some serious money in that. Um,
right.
but it was still, I don't know. It's just fascinating me. Like, it was definitely like a window into a different kind of reality. There
Right,
are people literally being followed around by assistants who can just be like, I want to do this, and then it just happens.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's have you listened to any of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing?
Um, I've avoided it. I mean, I listened to a whole one of it, and then I realized I don't want to listen to this.
Yeah, right.
Because
I
also, I mean, I tend to think in scenarios like that, it's got to be so impossible for anyone like in my position to ascertain or judge the truth
yeah.
that I'm kind of thankful that I'm not on the jury.
Oh yeah, that would be terrible. The only reason I bring it up is I have not watched. I haven't watched a ton, but every once in a while when I'm like getting ready for work or whatever, I'll like
Yeah, it
turn it
is
turn it on while I'm brushing
interesting.
my teeth,
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean,
and I
it's
happened
strange.
I happened to catch the for lack of a better term, I'm pretty sure he's a butler or something, but
Uh-huh.
it was
Oh
just
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like a
the
freelance it was like a freelance servant.
I actually saw that one. It's like and he's like a cliche butler, like an evil butler from a movie or something, where he's just
He's
like,
like
"Well,
he's
I
like
get hired by different misters who hire me, and I'm to keep utter total discretion
yeah,
and command over their environments, the temperature of the room, and the proper decanting of the wine." Like that kind of guy.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, it was like he had the accent, and he had like there's
Even the
some
way he
sort
was
of
recounting
buttling
time.
school. What's that?
Yeah. Even the way that he recounted time was interesting, where he was like at 12, like it was almost like military time, I think, when he was
Oh,
talking
are you
about
talking
time.
like 12:30?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's an
I'm
English. That's an English thing.
I'm just saying everything about that guy seemed like strangely proper and anyhow, go get where you were going. I
No,
apologize.
just
Anyway.
the whole. I mean, like I'm listening to this, and this guy is just normally describing his job,
Yeah.
which he was flown from London
Yeah.
to Australia or New Zealand or something because Johnny Depp had a good experience with this guy, and so he like set up the house that they were
Yeah.
staying. Like that was his job, was to come out,
Yep.
set up the house, and part of his job,
Run it, make sure the food's, in
yeah,
order. He's like an
just
old
like
school,
he was in charge of like the wine cellar,
yeah.
and that was why he was there testifying, because apparently she's quite the wino, according to his testimony.
Yeah, he
But
was saying like 2 bottles a day or something.
yeah,
Insane.
two bottles of $500 wine. I don't drink, but 2 bottles of any liquid seems like a lot of liquid.
For wine, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems like
Although
it.
if you disagree in the chat and you can coherently type your disagreement, let me know.
Yeah, and if you're doing that, do so with a super chat because you might as well.
I love it. Hey, that's a good point. I haven't mentioned super chats. I will say I do take super chats, you guys, and I will read anything that is super chatted as long as it is kind according to the terms of service of YouTube. Like I'm not going to read things that are going to get me banned or insult entire communities, but I'll read pretty much anything other than that. So,
Oh man,
yeah,
to
that trial was fascinating. That is one of those scenarios of seeing like a glimpse into a very different existence,
right. And the whole time I thought, this is a normal thing, like if I go on vacation,
yeah,
and we splurge and spend like more than $100 on a hotel,
yeah.
it's like a splurge. It's like we've saved up for that. Like it's
Oh
like
no, I mean,
it's like an
I am
event.
feeling guilty about taking a trip to Canada to promote my book. Like,
Right, yeah.
that's a big jump, to kind of
Oh,
do.
right, yeah.
But yeah, just to be like, yeah, I'm gonna fly this guy out because I like the way he serves the wine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting.
It's a weird thing. I can't remember why we started talking about that, but different
You grew
lifestyles
up
or
near
something.
Hearst Castle, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a crazy example of like a different reality of like wealthy people,
Yeah. I
where
mean,
it's
I
like,
grew up near Hearst Castle, but my dad taught wood shop. We
oh
could
yeah,
never
no, I was just
afford.
saying Hearst Castle
Oh
itself.
no, yeah, I know, but
Yeah,
I didn't. It was just very commonplace to me, but I had never done a tour.
yeah,
And then when I like went to college and graduated and got a job and moved back into town, and I had like my own money,
uh-huh,
I was like, I should go do a tour. And did a tour, and I was like blown away by the ostentation of it because like
yeah,
from the growing up in the area, you're like, yeah, that's where we surf half the time with the zebras across the freeway. It's kind of a weird place. But then you go there and you're like, he had planes from all over the country
yeah,
fly him the morning's newspaper every day.
yeah.
And that's not even the most ostentatious thing that he did.
Well, I
It's
just
just,
love that he, I think this would be a funny comic too if I ever had time. But it's just the fact
have
that
your
he's
intern
like,
do it.
he's hanging out in Greece and he's like, I like these Grecian statues. I'd like you to chop off the heads. And then I'd like from the necks to the feet to be propping up the railing that'll be by my pool. Make
Yeah.
that happen. And it's like, well, you can't do that, sir. This is a Grecian ruin. How about if I pay you this much? Okay, sure. Well, where do you want us to fly it? Like,
Right.
it's insane.
I
Like
like this turret. Send me this turret.
like there's a solid piece of oak that took like, I forget, they had like a story about it, but it took like like two ships like traveling side by side to ship this thing. Because it's
Yeah.
like a solid piece of wood that's a roof from a medieval castle. And
Right.
they basically were like, well, we could like cut it and then piece it together. And Hearst was just like, no, it needs to be the solid thing. And they're like, but I mean, it won't even work like on a shipping container. Like that just can't happen. And he's like, make it happen. And they're like, okay. It's weird.
Will do.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a crazy place, yeah. Where But also it makes you realize, as cliche as it is, it's like, those people have more money than anything, and they have a whole ton of problems. I don't think the wealth like magically solved all their issues.
Yep.
If you were ostentatiously wealthy, would you have a butler?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to pretend and be like, no, I'd do everything myself. I'm like, no, dude, if we could have like a maid and a butler,
Dude, could
like
you
people,
imagine how much more you could get done if like you
yeah,
didn't have to do dishes or mow your lawn or like clean up after yourself? If somebody else could cook your meals and stuff,
yeah.
like yeah, I would 100% do that. I would feel horrible about it the whole time because I was I mean, you probably might as well, but like
No, I'd feel
we've
great.
talked about this. Like we were both raised kind of not wealthy, kind of impoverished. Not like poor, but poor,
Yeah,
poor enough to where like it's weird for
America
me to have
poor,
somebody
right?
else mow my
Yeah,
lawn.
yeah.
Like yeah. Like I have weird like poor person's guilt for like normal things.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, any expense that's relatively large, or even, well, any expense seems relatively large. That's one thing.
Well, like I have a car payment,
Yeah.
and just having a car payment, I'm like, oh geez,
You're like, geez, Mr. Classy Class over here
I know.
with his
It's
car payment.
yeah, I mean I deserve in my mind to be driving a piece of junk that will die at any moment and
Mhm.
has no reliability, that I bought in cash for like under $1,000.
Yeah.
That's what I deserve in my mind.
Well, I definitely relate to that, man. So how's the comic coming, man? I believe you're not working on your comic,
I'm
but
not
that
working
is
on my
comic
comic.
related.
It is comic related. Yeah, this is
Are you able to reveal the secrets of what you're working on?
I mean, Scott brought it up the other day, so I think I can say that I'm doing it.
Hold on, Corey. Hold on. I'm gonna try to use this as a okay. You guys, if you want Corey to reveal the secrets, feel free to drop super chats. I'm trying to shake people down for money, Corey. Okay, I'm
Right,
trying
yeah.
here. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think anything I'm doing in the comic world is going to be worth a super chat. So good luck.
I was gonna say it's funny, but like I have seen streamers that will use super chats as like incentives to like stream longer.
Yeah.
And what would happen for me is the opposite. I could imagine getting super chats to stream less long, where people are just like, dude, just stop streaming. I
Just
will literally pay you. Just stop.
just
It's
stop talking
terrible.
now. Well, that reminds me of my daughter Scarlett. She had a business model one time. She said, "Dad, I've got a great idea for a business model." I said, "Oh, yeah,
I
what's that?"
think I remember this story, but you got to retell it. Go
She said, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go.
ahead.
I'm gonna go and knock on people's doors, and I'm just gonna start screaming, and then I will be wearing a sign that says, 'Give me money,' and I will stop screaming and go somewhere else."
Ah, she
I'm like,
basically, at a young age, reinvented the mob. Like the
I know.
baby
I was
the
like,
mob.
that's please don't do that at all, but definitely don't do it where we live because like we have to deal with these people. But yeah,
I just
she was
that's
certain.
a classic shakedown where it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, do you guys want to buy screaming protection?" What? And then you just start screaming.
Screaming protection. Yeah,
They're like, "What?"
that's my kid.
Yeah, have you guys heard about this big problem of like little kids just showing up at doors, just like screaming their heads off with if they don't get money? It's like this crazy problem going around. I can offer protection, but you have to pay a certain fee. Of course, if you don't, it'd be a shame. It'd be a
Right.
shame if you didn't have screaming protection, like that kind of shakedown. That's hilarious.
Yep. That's
Man,
my
your
kid.
daughter is either going to grow up with like, you know, basically taking over the world as like a dictator, or do great
Uh-huh.
things.
Yeah. She's gonna have her own banana republic or have a lot of people working for her someday. One of those things.
She is insanely intelligent, so I think, yeah. Like that's not a bad, I mean, it's not a kind thing, but there is a logic do that, you know?
Right.
There's a logic to it. You got to kind of respect it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a logic to it, that's for sure.
Oh man. I don't know. Ben definitely had a moment or two kind of similar to that. I remember one time he got some money from his aunt as like a present or something. And then it was like the next 2 days he kept going to her and being like, "Hey, do you have," like, he's pretty much like asking her for money like all the
Right.
time. And I think
Hey,
the first time
I
it kind of
noticed that
worked, and
you
I like had to kind of intervene and be like, "Ben, you can't shake down your aunt for money all the time."
I noticed
But
that you gave
she's
me
a
money
good kid,
before. Do you want to give me more money again?
but then again, you kind of can't blame him because he's like, "I don't know. I mean, it works." You
Yeah,
know?
like I'm not sure how it happened in the first place, and so I don't know if
Yeah,
I can. Like I'm testing out this well. Like how deep does this well go?
yeah, that's true. Like the well of super chats that I'm testing out. You guys want to drop some super chats? All right, so let people know what you're working on though.
Yeah, so this is a alternate cover for Scott Circlin's Young and the Dead. It looks
Yes.
like this so far. So I've got this zombie guy, and these will be kids running at some point, and then there's the monkey on top of the car that they steal next to the treehouse where the guy gets hanged in the arcade and shooting the wrist rocket. And so I'm trying to. It's like I wanted to make the most Easter egg heavy thing. The story behind this is funny. Josh, who you're watching now on his channel, was like, "Hey, we should do this thing together." And then I did up a bunch of sketches, and he's like, "Yeah, those are great. I'm going to do my own thing." So here, I had a sketch all ready to go. It was actually really nice because when Scott asked me, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's like I've already laid all that out."
I kind of think it had a lot to do with the time constraints at the time too, you know, where it was like I think we were trying to like knock the thing out in like a day or something.
Oh yeah, no, we're
And
going
so
super fast, and you were in the middle of I can't remember which book, but you were like it was like crunch time.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think it
you
was
you
getting the Jacob's apartment pages wrapped. It
yeah,
might have
right.
been, or maybe it was, I don't know.
I
I
can't
think that's
remember,
what it
but you
was
had
though.
like it wasn't like a self-imposed deadline. It was like an actual
Yeah, so it was
outside
probably
deadline.
that. Yeah, it was probably doing the book revisions for it. Um, because there's this weird time. I mean, in publishing, it's kind of like in film or whatever, where it's like, you know, when you're in that like the post production stage and you have like a release date, and you're just like, okay, I guess this crap really has to happen, hell or high water, at a
Right.
specific time. You know, it's kind of like that, except not at all. But kind of like it.
You know, I really like Scott, but I hate zombies, and so I have never really watched a zombie movie.
Oh, really? You don't
I
like
just
zombies?
I don't like horror in general, but yeah, I'm not much of a zombie, and so I'm kind of like guessing.
Yeah,
Like, I don't have like the like quite a few comic book creators are like, oh yeah, this movie and that with like horror and
yeah.
especially zombies in general, and I'm just not that way, and so I don't have like this well of zombie tropes to like draw from on this.
So a good intro to zombies, I would say, is you're basically just drawing rotting dead people walking.
Right, and that's what I'm going for here. Is I'm like, if
Now, if you
if
want to go
somebody's
like,
skin were to be rotting off their face, what would that look like?
that's kind of why people like drawing them so much, as weird as it is, because it's like it's a fun anatomical challenge where you're just like, oh yeah, like I guess if the skin were coming off here, you'd have like a cheekbone, you know, like for an artist, that's like really fun. But
Yeah,
for, you know, for a normie who's not an artist, like that's it's kind of like, I'm sure the movies are really fun to make too, where you're just like, I have to make this effect, but it's like it comes out really dark, you know, like
yeah.
um but I will say I always do, there's different ways to stylize zombies. My personal favorite is to actually just have no pupils or eyes, like it's just white like their eyes are either just straight white or red. I
Like
like
the
the
Goon
glowing eyes
style?
zombie. That's a fun one to do. But there's a million ways you can do zombies, and mainly it's just like, I don't know. I think the way Scott does them is pretty good. You know, it's like
Oh
more
yeah.
tame, but still scary for kids. You know, but it's like it's
Well,
not like
his comic is fun because like I'm not. It's still got all the fun stuff in it, but I'm not like gagging because it's so gross. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's like a fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
For
enjoyed
me, I
reading
like
his.
Evil Dead style horror where it's like it's over the top, but it's kind of intentionally so.
Yeah, my
The horror
only.
I tend to not like is the stuff that's like a little too real and becomes kind of like a little questionable. Like, yeah.
My only experience with the Evil Dead is I watched a lot of Burn Notice, and then recently I saw the new Doctor Strange movie, which apparently had a lot of Evil Dead references to it.
Well, it's Sam Raimi, right? Who did the
Yeah,
movie?
yeah.
I gotta see that movie. I gotta
Oh
see
yeah.
that.
Okay,
And
I won't ruin it for you, but there is a part where I was like, well, that looks really out of place and bizarre. And then I was watching some like commentary on it on YouTube afterwards, and
uh,
apparently that was a giant nod to uh, Ash and the Evil Dead. And
I'm
so,
sure there must be. I mean, he's he even tends to have Bruce Campbell in like most of his movies. So
well, I think Bruce Campbell has made it into all 4 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
that's insane. I'll have to. I gotta see it. I gotta see it. I'm not like a. I haven't seen the Stars. I guess there was like a TV series and stuff. I never saw that, but I do love those first 3 Evil Dead movies quite a bit.
There's a TV series of what?
Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Oh,
It
yeah,
had like a
I haven't seen any of it because I don't like horror. But I really do like Bruce Campbell. But I mainly only know him from Burn Notice
yeah.
and the occasional cameo.
Yeah, I feel like there's fun horror, but yeah, I'm kind of with you to an extent. Like I like horror, but I don't personally. I don't. There's realms of horror. I've talked. I've been on that Comics de la Muerte to talk horror, and that's
So
one
that
of the
show's
things I
fun to
mentioned.
watch. I like watching that show, but
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Well, so I did discuss that a little bit on the show where there's some realms of horror like Rob Zombie's horror movies. Not a big fan because they're just kind of brutal. Like, and
Right.
there's not like a I don't know. There's not like a corniness to it, or I don't know. I feel like it should either be like very suspenseful and thrilling, or it should be like over the top gore fest that's like just ridiculous. Um, I don't want like a gore fest that feels like watching an actual war or something. It's like
Right.
that's not something I need to do or fill my head with.
Yeah.
Um,
I there was a time where I was interested in like the structure of it. And I actually created a like what do you call that? Like a spook alley. I made a spook alley that was so terrifying that it like shut down spook alleys in that town for several years. Like no one did them. And one of the kids like broke this guy's face. It was like a jump scare, and the kid was so terrified by that point that he like swung his bag of candy at one of the actors,
oh my gosh,
and it put his teeth through his lip.
jeez.
And so then kind of everybody decided, maybe spook alleys are not a thing we should do. And that was kind of my last, but like I liked the structure of it, like the anticipation build up to a fake non-scare, then
Yeah.
the letdown and the relaxing, and then the actual scare. like that's so formulaic, but it's like it's so effective.
Yeah, and I feel like
Anyway.
at its best it can be really formulaic, but it's like I don't know. I'm not a huge I, I'm not a huge fan of certain genres of horror, but in general, really well done horror I love, you know.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
there's
from
like the thriller kind of element of stuff, like something like Silence of the Lambs, where it's like very suspenseful and dramatic, and it's like it's tension, you know.
yeah. I
But
mean, I
it's
like
not like glorifying, you know, the gore, you know. I don't know if that
yeah,
makes sense.
I like suspense, but I'm not and I like drama, but I don't know. I'm probably nitpicking too much here, but
No, I get it. I get it. It's different people have different tastes. It's funny too because I know people who really like really super realistic horror movies, and they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. You know,
right,
it's just like not my those don't tend to be my cup of tea
yeah,
unless they're like documentary type stuff. Like I think Zodiac is pretty amazing,
I've
but
never.
that's barely a horror movie. It's more just like a like this is what happened kind of movie, which is also very terrifying.
Mm,
But anyhow, let's oh my gosh, look at the time. Do you see the time?
I don't.
Oh my gosh. You guys, we're about an hour into the stream. And so what that usually means is that it's trailer time. Uh Corey, do you want me to put on a trailer or you want to just talk to chat for like a
No, no,
minute
you
while I
can put
do
on a
the
trailer. I'll go roll my back out on the foam roller.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. So we'll be back in a minute. I think we'll play the trailer for Jacob's apartment, which is okay. Let me see here, and here we go. Enjoy. We'll be right back in about a minute. Also, if you guys have any topics or questions or anything you want us to address, drop it in the chats, and also let us know what you're working on. All right. See you in a minute.
Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around breathing pain. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams.
And we're back. That was a great suggestion. I think that was your advice. Was the idea of like putting on trailers? It was either you or Scott who told me to do that.
I think it was me.
Sounds like a Corey Kerr suggestion to me. So
Yeah, it's an automate it and set it and forget it suggestion. It's like
yeah,
it's my go-to.
I love it, and it does make it a lot easier for me to take breaks without having to do a long-winded like I'm just gonna be right back. If I have guests on too, I don't have to have that awkward like plug your work thing, you know.
Yeah.
Although I do like to give people an opportunity to plug their work to the 10 people who watch the stream. Yeah, that is fun. But you know, it's a little more fun to do it a little more organically, you know. So
yes.
That's crazy awesome though. I'm actually really excited about Scott's alternate covers. It's like
That's a
weird.
great idea.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like I don't do art for people a lot, you know, like ever.
Yeah,
And
I'm the same.
I have to say, I think it's a testament to like my friendship with you and Scott, where I've done projects with you guys, you know, because it's like it's just fun. I don't know. Also, I want Scott's comic to succeed.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. To me, this is something that I gained. I don't think I naturally had. I think when I was a younger artist, I was very competitive. And I had to learn how to kind of like celebrate other people's successes.
Oh, okay.
I used to have envy issues when it came to like art, which is kind of a weird thing to admit to, but I used to have that a lot.
Yeah.
I think that might be more common than, especially for like college age kids, you know, where it's like you do have friends you want to see succeed, but like, you know, I don't know, especially when you're young and you're kind of hungry for art and stuff. It's like I remember getting hit with like kind of pretty crazy envy as a younger artist and having to kind of learn that lesson of like, oh, it's like it's like the abundance versus scarcity mindset, you know.
Right.
I think some of that came from growing up. Like, I was trying to. I think I might have talked to you about this, but there was a day or two ago. Because this has been a strength for me throughout my life as well. Is like I will negotiate for the best deal in almost every situation.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
But there's some times where like you kind of need to just give value, and that's like the ethical thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm having to kind of relearn because again, it's like fighting that instinct of like, you know, I don't know, you just kind of got to survive, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird, it's an interesting juxtaposition, but it's been a long time since that's been like a struggle. I feel like that was an interesting lesson. And I meet younger artists every once in a while who haven't learned that, and it's kind of rough, you know. You're like, oh man, it's gonna be hard for you, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I kind of avoided that by not doing art for several decades.
Yeah, I
Then
mean,
when I came back to it, I was,
what about outside of art? Did you have any struggles like that, like just in business or like just as a young adult? You know, like very early young adult.
I mean, I don't think so. But I don't know how much of that is like. I mean, when you're younger, you're just really cocky.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had also the
wait. The joke answer to that should be like, wait, when you were younger, Corey.
Right. I mean, I think I had that cockiness of youth, but I also was a fairly skilled businessman.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's difficult with my upbringing to say good things about myself, but it has been challenging to find an equal in a lot of situations that I was in the companies that I was in, because I also wasn't in like, it's not like I was working at like known name brand companies.
Yeah.
But I knew what I was doing, and I was usually the best person at that thing around.
Yeah.
And so I never had much where I was like, whoa. But I you know what? I mean, I had a couple graphic designers that worked for me that I learned a ton from.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever being jealous of them.
Yeah, I haven't had that in my kind of professional career so much, like, because that gets kicked out of you if you have it, you know.
Because you can't. I mean, it's almost like whoever's doing something to help is
Yeah.
helping everybody.
But I
So,
definitely had that moment in art school where I got to school and it's like I was used to, like in high school, like I wasn't a really good artist, but I had people saying I was a good artist. I was
Yeah.
winning awards, like state awards and stuff like that. And so I just got this like kind of cockiness about it where it was like I was just used to being the best person in my area at what I did.
Yeah.
I was used to like if I came across like a challenge, I would still be able to do the best work. It would just be like, okay, you just have to stay up a little later and work harder.
Yeah. See
And
where I got as a freshman in college,
yeah,
like without drawing very much, I was kind of known as an artist in high school,
yeah,
but like my toxic perfectionism kind of made it so that I was playing the part of an artist, but I never really drew that much because I didn't want to do something bad. And then I got to college and you have that experience that everybody does where it's like
yeah,
you're around the best artist in every high school in the
yes,
basic drawing 101 class.
yeah, yeah.
And my response was the wrong response. I changed my major 5 times. so I was like, well, this sucks. I'm not
I do
immediately
remember
the best at this, so I'm out.
I do remember really vividly though, like what a shock to my system that was. That I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I was not the best. I wasn't even necessarily like in the middle at the beginning. It was like, wow, I have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
And like, so I'd say like one of the advantage because there have been people who've asked like whether it's worth going to school for art, on our
Yeah.
shows and stuff. And it's like I always feel like the answer always has to be no. Like you don't have to go to school to be a good artist. Like I know plenty of self-taught artists that are amazing.
It's a force multiplier, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, but I will say like that's one of the values that I always forget to mention, which is just like it's actually really healthy to be thrown into like when you're the big fish in a pond. Um for me, like even to gain an abundance mindset, I think it's really healthy to like when you're like kind of the biggest fish in the pond or whatever to like be thrown into the ocean and realize like holy crap, I'm just like a tiny little guy here and there's like killer whales out here and
Yeah.
like sharks and like ancient beings that have been like you know what I mean, like there's just some powerful like artists out there and um I don't know, I feel like that helped me a lot with that kind of strange like toxic competitiveness.
Right.
But it's weird because it's like I feel like you kind of almost have to have that a little bit when you're first starting because you have to be a little deluded. Even if you start late, you have to have a little bit of delusion to think that you can do this kind of impossible thing that we do.
Yeah, if you want to do it for a living.
Yeah, and also if you want to get good at drawing, it's just like it's kind of impossible to get good at drawing. Like you can get better at drawing,
Right.
but
There's
even to
no
get better, you have to kind of believe the delusion that you
yeah,
can
there's
get
no time where
good.
you achieve it.
Yeah,
There's no time where you're like, I have arrived at being good at drawing.
yeah. So I don't know. I guess my point is like we're all delusional egotists, but I'm also I don't know. I don't know what made me think of it. It was just that I don't know. It was a few days ago or something. I think I was like at a store and I overheard somebody just being like toxic about somebody, like where they were like, "Oh, of course this guy would get that thing. What about mine?" kind of thing. And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, holy crap. Like this is a weird." I mean, I don't know. It's like I've been there like when I was a young guy. Like I remember, back when I was when I used to work at AM PM or whatever, right? This is
Yeah.
like, I think I was still like a teenager, like very early 20s. And I remember just feeling like, well, I mean, like all these people have gotten lucky breaks, like that's why they like blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Right.
Having that kind of attitude about stuff. And it literally took me getting robbed at gunpoint at that store to be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I just need to actually just go to school and like get the hell out of here. Like,
Yeah, right.
it's like I probably like shouldn't just wait around for like some magic opportunity, because I keep meeting these people who are like, yeah, I didn't get those opportunities. I just kind of made it happen and got out, you know.
Right.
You meet enough of those people and you're like, I don't know, like, not that I believe in the bootstraps method of things entirely, because I think like half the time people don't even have bootstraps to pull themselves up by, right?
Well, and the irony of telling somebody to pull themselves up by their bootstraps is that it originally started as an ironic statement because
Yeah,
it's impossible to do that.
yeah, exactly.
Like
And then
if I
adopted.
pull on the straps of my boot, I can't lift myself any higher because I'm pulling against myself. But then
Yeah,
somehow it mutated, and the irony of the statement got lost, which is always the case. It's always like, that's not what that meant. Like that actually means the opposite of what you think you're trying to say. Like you're trying to say, like, go out and get them.
yeah,
But you're using the example that is the reason why they can't.
exactly. So I don't think that's like entirely possible, but I will say, like, I do think like taking initiative and control over the things you can control is like really important, you know.
Well, yeah, and I
Um,
mean, like, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
If you're looking at if you're sorry, I keep like turning to go check Scott's comic to make sure I'm dressing this guy the way that he's dressed in the comic. But
that's
if you're
okay.
looking at like how this works, like, it is luck, it is who you know, it is, blah 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 blah. But like luck is, partially outside of your control, but then it's also partially like you could have somebody show up and say, hey,
Yeah,
I've got $30,000 for a logo. Who can do this? And if you can't do it, that opportunity does exist, but it's not for you.
yeah,
And so you've got to be able to like do it. You've got to be able to get in there and like be able to do stuff before those opportunities hit, or
yeah,
there's just no point to them
yeah.
for
Like,
you.
I mean, I experience this less and less, because I think as you get older, like, people start realizing like there's quite often quite a lot of hard work that goes behind. I mean, there's definitely fortune that is at 100% out of the control. Like, for me, it's like even getting like a book deal or whatever, I feel like that's like 90% just fortune, like luck, you know.
But
Um,
also,
but
you had a book.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's the key, is like, luckily I meet less and less people as I get older, because I think, again, like, we realize like a little bit more of the reality of it. But I still, every once in a while we'll meet somebody who's like, well, that's lucky you got a book deal, and I'm like, well, but I finished the book. Like,
Right.
that's
It's
the
like,
thing. Like, I don't like, and for me, and we've talked about this on 48-hour art check too. It's like, for me, if somebody's finishing art and finishing stories and working and trying to improve, like, I have mad respect for them, like, regardless of like whether they get a publisher or anything. It's just like, hey,
right.
at least you're making art, at least you're doing it,
Yeah.
that puts, to me, that's the one thing you can do, right? Oh, Philip's joining us and said, popping on a little late. Hey, Philip, how's it going? But yeah, I don't know. To me, that's a tough one to navigate, because I feel like people always go to like polar opposites on it, where they'll either be like fortune and other people have nothing to do with it. I succeeded on my own, and you're like, I don't know, like, I don't know if you can say that.
Yeah.
But then there's the other extreme of like people who are just kind of like waiting around for like a magic being to like come and solve all their problems, and it's like, no, you have to kind of take some actions. Like, you can't wait around for like William Randolph Hearst to come by and be like, you kid, you're a brilliant cartoonist, and also I like your roof, let's ship it to Europe as one giant piece.
Well, I think that's the appeal of Ayn Rand to like really young people.
Yeah.
Is I'd like to think that the world is a meritocracy that functions 100% correctly.
Yeah, I mean that would be nice.
Be kind of cool, right? I mean,
It's not.
it's not, and that like objectivism falls apart really early.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, just when you put it to any level of scrutiny at all.
Yeah.
But like, it's a fun concept, you know, that like if you work hard, it will always work out. You know,
It's a crazy concept, but I will say it's not a crazy concept to think that like you increase your odds of, I don't know. It's like I don't know. It'd be kind of equivalent to like I don't really do the stock market. I might like have hobbyistically dipped in there a little bit,
yeah,
but I'm not like heavy in it, and I haven't invested a ton of time into it. But I'm at an age where I have friends who did in their 20s. Now they're in their 40s, and
right,
like they've reaped some huge benefits
sure,
from it. But also, while I was in my 20s, and I'm like, sweet, I got money, I'm gonna make this happen, like with whatever it was. They're meanwhile kind of taking some hits. Um,
yeah,
as they're doing these they're taking a little bit of risk and time, and like there's I will say, like, again, I don't have a ton into the stock market, but this is probably the first year where I've dipped into a little bit of stock trading, and
uh,
holy crap, it's a roller coaster, man, because you have like the markets crash, and like even if it's like you put like
well,
$10 down, it's like it's tense
yeah,
because you're like, oh, now it's -6, or whatever. It's like it's a crazy ride of like,
yeah,
and there's no guarantees in it, but it's like my point is just like I may not even be like the biggest fan of it, but my point is just like I probably shouldn't be like angry at somebody who did that and then succeeded, right? Like I might want to kind of look to like my own, like in that sense. Although I don't want to, I guess I am sounding a little Ayn Randian-ish, and I'm not trying to. But
yeah. Well, like I've got a
yeah,
buddy who we were just talking, the three of us, we were just talking today, and me and one guy just happened, and I think this is just it just happened sometimes, you know.
yeah,
We happened to buy houses at the right time, you know,
yeah,
and it was like a little bit of skill, but mostly just, you know,
luck,
kind of
yeah,
lucky timing, you know. But I mean, I also had worked hard enough to have a job where I could like put down a
yep,
down payment and, you know, whatever. So there's a little bit of both, right? It's that nuanced situation.
yeah,
And it's not like this other friend of ours is stupid or irresponsible, but like
yeah,
he went bankrupt on his house. Um, and it is one of the there's people that go bankrupt where it's like 100% their fault and they're total jerks for like manipulating the system. And then there's other people for like the reason the bankruptcy laws exist so that we don't lock people up in debtor's prison for their lives, you know?
oh yeah, yeah. I think I've had plenty of friends who didn't earn it getting bankrupt, or like
Right. Yeah.
having horrible financial situations or horrible health situations.
Sure.
Like a lot of people who end up in a hole, and I mean, heck, I've been in a hole like that before, but it's like, there are certain financial holes you can end up in or just be born into where you're just like perpetually like
Yeah.
in a system that is rigged against you,
Yeah.
and you really do have like very little chance of kind of getting out of that scenario.
Right.
um and actually even housing is a really good point, because like my wife and I, yeah, it's like we stayed with relatives and saved up and worked really hard to like kind of get our down payment and um, for like an FHA loan and all that stuff so that we could get a house. But some of it was total luck in the sense of like, first off, like I was lucky enough to be employed at the time.
Right.
Um, and then, and that's not all your own hard work. Like sometimes I have seen very talented artists who are just like totally out of work and just can't get
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
and like it's just completely out of their control. But it's like it also kind of corresponded with like we did all the right things. We did like the few steps we should do, but also like we just did the math and we were like, at the time it was like more expensive to rent than
Right.
to pay a mortgage. It's a weird
Yeah.
era. And the housing market was just torched. So like for us, like we got a really good rate and now it's like a bubble again. And I had a friend, I have a good friend visiting who kind of is interested in like moving back to California. And I was saying like I would love to have you here, but like this would be like the stupidest time to buy. Like
Oh yeah.
because it's just like it's very inflated and I don't think it's like crazy inflated. Like California property always goes up, but it's like this just isn't a really good time to buy. And if like Maya and I had like bought now, like in a scenario like that, or if we had stayed with family and saved up and done all those right steps, we probably would have never been able to have a house. It's just like a weird.
Right.
So it was like some of it is like luck of the draw a little bit,
Yeah.
where it's like it's not like I'm suddenly better than somebody who might make the same steps now, but just conditions are different where what was possible for us like just won't be,
Yeah, and it'll hopefully it'll swing back around to where it is, but yeah, it's one of those timing things. But anyway, so I was saying, man, I really lucked out. The first house I bought was like 114,000, and and then we happened to not be able to sell it when we wanted to,
Yeah.
and the market was low, and then it went up, or whatever. And so like even in our stupidity, we kind of like stumbled into enough for a down payment on a better house. Anyway, long story short, we both looked over at this other guy and we're like, oh, sorry, dude, because like he's in like year 3 of his bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's cool. And I just thought, oh, that's a good attitude to have. He's he's not bitter about it. He's not like angry at other people for their success or their luck or whatever else. And
yeah,
he's a good dude. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's the balance is like I think that it so I have some friends who are pretty well off, and then I have friends who are like where we're at, which is like just kind of middle of the road. Like we're like my wife and I are like very bottom middle class, and we spent a majority of our time like below that, where we were like very top of poor, but it's like I feel like there's a I just think that if you're constantly, this is why I think like the abundance mindset's important. I don't think it's smart to be a sucker. So I want to be clear on that.
Right.
Don't be a sucker and buy into the idea of like some king telling you,
the secret.
Well, the wealth is with me because I'm chosen by God, that kind of thing. It's like, if there's wealth disparity, it might be a worthwhile thing to actually address, But my point is just like, I don't know. It's like the difference between kind of choosing a productive path that's going to get you somewhere that's going to benefit you, or choosing a path that can just completely destroy and erode you,
Yeah.
Because I definitely have known some people who, at least by the age I'm at now, I definitely know some people who've gotten very bitter and kind of angry.
Right.
And it just doesn't work out well. It doesn't work out well for health. It doesn't work out well for it doesn't get them out of their situation.
Well, it almost even starts to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and then because you kind of, I think it's funny how close to The Secret we're getting, because we both hate The Secret, but like,
yeah,
it's that nuanced situation, I do think, there is a, hold on, I gotta measure and make sure I've got the proportions right. Yeah, okay, his head's just abnormally large. But if you start looking for certain things, those are the things that you're going to see. And so if you start looking for everything to suck, it's almost kind of hard to see when stuff doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And so you miss out on like what you could be doing, or if you expect like the world to be totally unfair, why would you bother trying to improve yourself or your situation?
Yeah. I mean, and like some of the people I know who've been kind of gone down the more bitter path, it also like by the point you're like you get to like your 40s and up, it like starts having an actual health toll. Like
Yeah, right.
it literally starts eating away at your own health. Like it's just not a good way to roll, you know? Like
Right.
it's tough, and it's also really unpleasant because like even when people have successes and things, like it's not like their struggles all magically disappear.
Yeah.
Um, you know, like I haven't had like wild successes, but like I feel very lucky and fortunate, you know, for like what's happened in the last year with like the book deals and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like along with book deals, like there's a whole bunch of extra weird stuff that I didn't have to worry about before, you know.
Yeah.
And
Like your butler, just managing your staff.
yeah, like I gotta get my butler, and then like if he brings the wine and it's just not properly chilled, like I've gotta like cuss out my butler and find a new one, you know. Um, I mean, like you know, when my maid like cleans, I have to like really get in there with like a toothbrush and make sure, you know, she's gotten like every little section of the house because otherwise, no.
You can't let them get away with stuff. They'll always try to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
It's
But
those
yeah,
lower class people, man. They just always are looking for the easiest way out.
yeah, it's a weird. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I don't even know why it's on my mind. It's just I don't know. I think it was more just like one of those things of realizing. I think when you see it, if you've had growth in your life where you're able to kind of celebrate people's successes, you know, and be happy for people rather than it being like oh well why did they and not me, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just so much. It becomes really glaring when you come across it. When you come across someone who's got like the kind of whoa, well, why them? You know,
Right.
if you're like
Right.
whoa, because it's an energy. It's a really, I don't know. It can be really bad,
Yeah.
but I also can get it because I've definitely been in scenarios where, I mean, man, you know, before getting the art director gig, there was like a good 4 or 5 months where I was just like unable to get a job. And it
Oh yeah.
sucked so bad because I was like, I had an MFA, I had done all the right steps, I had a good portfolio, I had a great client list, like I had all this stuff, and yet like it was like that overqualified, underqualified thing where you're just
Right.
everywhere you go, like there's no place. That can be a really frustrating thing, and half the game of like that was just like trying to keep your mental energy because
How
like you
long
were
were you
saying
doing
about
that?
sorry, what?
How long were you in that kind of limbo state?
It was like 5 or 6 months, you know.
Oh, geez, that's torture, man.
And
I did that. I did that
we had
for
a
I did
newborn.
for I did that for 6 weeks one time, and I just can't handle that situation.
Yeah, I mean, and we
It's
had a
awful.
newborn, so it was really tense, you know, where it was like, oh man. Um, so I relate because it's like I definitely don't think I created that. However, that was the hard part. Was like I could have very easily made it even worse. If I had leaned into like defeatism or
Right.
like I'm not saying that like it's gonna always work out, but it's like, man, there's a really quick way to make that an eternal unemployment thing, which is just to like give in and be like, oh,
Yep.
maybe I am worthless, or maybe I like didn't do like forget your own achievements or your own like
Yeah.
value. Um, and it's hard. It's hard, and I guess my point is like it's not like it's easy for people to remember their value or like to get out of situations like that because situations like that just exist, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think I mean, they even talk about that a lot, because I remember having to read articles on it too, to try to be like, okay, well, I can't seem to find a job. This is insane, right? It was just a nutty situation.
Yeah.
And I remember every article I'd read would be like, the big trick is just don't like stop applying, and don't like give up, like just kind of continue trying.
Yeah.
And if you keep optimistic about it, and you keep kind of sending out resumes and stuff like that, like it tends to kind of work out. But like the people who tend to drop out of the job market are people who just kind of get like let it get to their head,
Yeah.
which again, it's a lot easier to let it get to your head when you're like, your groceries depend on it, like
Oh yeah.
it's tough. It's just a tough, but having been there, it's like, still, I do think like, man, like that was a time in my life that could have easily gone a totally different path if I had just kind of been like given into like my darker thoughts at the time,
Right.
I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah.
Or if I had just given into like being really pissed at people. But I do remember, like, I'd know people who like had way less experience, way less education, maybe less strong of portfolios, and they'd be getting work.
Yep.
And it's like, when you're looking for work and everyone's getting work, and you're like, what is going on? Like, it is really hard to keep. It's one thing to say like you should have an abundance mindset, but it's like, I understand and relate to why like some people end up in scenarios where they don't, right? Because it is, there are times where it's hard to be happy for your friend eating a steak if you're like starving,
Right. Oh, I'll tell you, as you're talking, I just thought of a situation. I'm not looking for work. I really like where I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But every once in a while, like a student will get an opportunity, and had 10 years ago, I would have jumped at that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit like, you mean you don't have to eat crap for like 12 years? This is just what you're going to get to do like straight out of college? Like, like you don't have to like go through the same rigor of garbage eating that I had to go through. And I am a little bit jealous, I think, in those situations where, I'm like, oh, like I've had, I've had students go on and work at places where I'm like, that is a very cool job at a very cool place. Like, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm cool with it. It doesn't take me very long for it to be like, I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay. All right. That's a thing that just happened, and it didn't happen to me.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of understand that too, because like, like we were saying, it's like, I don't think it's, again, I don't think we can say we grew up in like complete poverty or something, because like,
yeah, definitely.
If you ever go to like a third world country or something, it's like, even our poverty here is not poverty. Like,
right, exactly. Yeah.
It's but anyhow, like, from not growing up with like I guess like a silver spoon handed to me or whatever, I definitely have like a classist thing that I've fought with a lot. Where and a lot of it originates from a similar thing, where I'm like, well, that must be nice to like turn 15 and have a car, and like,
right,
like have these things paved for you, or like have your college paid for you, or like, like all, and I'll go down that road. At least I used to, a lot more than I do now, where it'd just be like all the entitlements that they had that I didn't, and how and sometimes that will still trigger if somebody's talking about like just how like all the things they've achieved or whatever, and then you find out they grew up like super rich, and you're like, like, you achieving that and someone else achieving that are like different accomplishments, right? I'll go into that realm. At the same time, it's not like it's not a healthy, not a healthy mindset or whatever. I definitely needed to, and still continue to like kind of do work on that. Like, that would be probably like for for the abundance mindset part, that'd probably be the part that it's like embedded in my soul, and it's not healthy,
Right.
the like anti-rich thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm against people attaining wealth. It's just like people who grew up in wealth, I just naturally feel like an aversion to.
Yeah, and I
Which
agree
isn't fair.
I agree it's not fair because they didn't choose to be born into that situation,
Yeah, and like honestly, if like let's say like hypothetically like one of my books like exploded last year, would it be wrong for me to create a better situation for my son than I had growing up?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'd probably try to rear him to where he didn't have like crazy entitlement or something from it, but you know what I mean? Like it's still like that's not wrong for a parent to want to provide for their kid.
Right.
Or like for people to have the abundance to where they can share it. It's just, I don't know. But it is, yeah, it's funny to me. So even though I was like talking about kind of moving on and having more of an abundance mindset, that would probably be my weak spot that I still work on, but I'm still aware of it so that I can kind of check myself if I feel it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that's a good check is also realizing like how much I did have compared to other people too. So it's like, it's that chain of like, if I start going down that path of like, well, they didn't have to blah, 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 then like I have to also regress from myself and realize there's like 20 other people who could do that to me, probably within like a mile of me, like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that endless chain of like, well, why do they, and everybody kind of ends up in a sinking ship,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why that's on my mind.
I don't know.
Well, Corey, I have finished the colors.
Cool.
This is craziness. I will say I'll be streaming again, probably most of the day tomorrow, although I'm going to be doing some pencils off stream, but I'm planning on at least tomorrow afternoon to the evening doing some work. So those who are watching along live, or Corey or anybody else, you guys are welcome to kind of hang.
Sounds good.
Are you you're doing research on that's The Young and the Dead, correct? The book?
Yeah. I'm trying to get there are so many characters in this book. I'm trying to decide what I meant by these squiggles from like a year ago.
That's always hard. Deciphering a thumbnail from years back is tough.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't give myself enough information to really know what's going on in my sketches, but I think I'm recreating it pretty well. So we'll get there eventually. I know there's a monkey, but like I have this monkey, and I know this is a monkey.
Yeah.
I cannot for the life of me remember what he was supposed to be holding. Like it seems significant because I've drawn him like holding it up as if it's like a thing. I have no idea what that is. So I'll have to figure that out.
It almost looks like the monkey's holding like a Molotov cocktail or something.
It might be kind of the Muppet stuffed animal character from one of the younger kids.
Oh, I could see that.
I don't know. I've got to reread these. It's been a little while since I read them.
All right,
that might be what I wanted. Yeah.
Corey, where can everybody find your work and follow what you're working on here and all that fun stuff?
Oh, you can find my work at CoreyKerr.com. So if you want to see what I'm doing or what I'm working on, you can go to CoreyKerr.com and click on What's New. That'll take you to a link where you can buy t-shirts or watch animations for free, or follow me on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube. And yeah.
Nice. And anytime you guys hear Corey say what's new, I just want you to have the audio cue that comes into my head, which is Tom Jones, what's new, Pussycat, every time.
So yours
They'd be
is Tom
"Click
Jones.
here,"
Mine
and I'm like,
is
what? No. Anyhow.
mine is Steve Martin singing the same song. So
Ooh, I like that even more. All right.
from Father of the Bride, I think.
So you guys need to imagine and imagine that drop, but in a way that wouldn't get this video demonetized. All right. Thanks to everybody who showed up. You're on my channel, so hit subscribe, hit the bell. If you feel so inclined, I think there are things that are like a super chat, but it's like after the fact, and I haven't had anyone send one yet. Not even really sure how they work. But I think if you like do it, even for like $1 or something, it gives you like a personalized message or something. Have you met anybody who's done that yet, Corey? Those things? I'm forgetting
No,
what
but
they're
I
even
haven't done
called.
much on my channel lately,
Yeah.
so I probably should.
Well, they're after the fact. So, but anyhow, it's down there. So if you guys want to try it and let me know in the chats or whatever, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. I guess that'll basically do it, and I'll see you guys pray on Saturday. I'm excited to. I hate to say it, but I'm excited that these streams are a little shorter because that
Yeah.
means I'm actually coloring a little faster. But it's also a it's a temporary illusion because, like Corey, if you look at this page, just as somebody who's done flat colors, you can probably understand why this has gone a little quicker
Sure.
than some of the other pages because it's mostly like mid shots and head shots, and it's like that's
Right.
like the easiest, quickest thing to do color
Yeah.
for. So,
Yeah.
although the next page should hopefully be equally a little bit quicker. So I'm excited about that. Thank you guys who tune into these things. It's really fun. I don't know if the topic was of interest. Like to me, it's just what's been on my mind. But I will also throw this out there. If you're watching this after the fact and you ever have like something you want me to talk about while working on art, I'm always down to like kind of hear like anything of interest to you guys because again, like most of the function of the stream is just to hang out, get art done, and talk shop about whatever. So anyhow, Corey, it was fun having you on, man. It's been like I feel like there's these windows of time where I'm sure you kind of relate to this, but it's like there's some processes in the workflow that's really hard to kind of converse while
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing. And then there's others that are like perfect for hanging out and chatting. So I'm
Well,
glad like
you live stream way more than I do because most of the time I'm like in a really interesting part of the book I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And just selfishly, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep listening to my book.
I have a similar thing. I will say one thing that's really fun, and it's weird because I don't even like gamble like myself. Like I'm kind of opposed to gambling, like for my own choices. But I have to say, there's like a Hustler Casino in Los Angeles has like a live stream where they're doing high stakes poker, and I have been having that in the background while I'm drawing pencils. And I
Yeah.
have to say, it's just intriguing and fascinating, and it like it's I don't know why it's so interesting, but it's just like high stakes drama, and dishonest and all sorts of terrible things. But it's also there's a craft and an art to it that's like really interesting. That kind of I don't know. It kind of reminds me of art.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll do it. I guess that'll do it. So, oh, Corey, show us what you finished though so far. You like
Yeah,
the monkey?
not as much as I'd like, but I've got the scientist hanging from the treehouse.
Nice.
And this is way too close. The zombie guys. And then the smoke. So yeah, so far just slowly getting there.
I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about it. And I will say, like just as a drop for Scott too, not that he needs it, but I will say make sure you guys are keeping in touch with Scott and Circworks because that's going to be a lot of fun to just kind of see when all these alternate comics covers are actually going to be part of his Kickstarter campaign for the Young and the Dead. And I have an alternate cover on there too. So I think it's going to be just a really cool opportunity to get a good comic, but also get some of our community's artwork like mixed with Scott's brilliant comic, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think that campaign is going to have some cool rewards, so it'd be fun to follow along with that.
Yeah. And then, I also, just because I'm vain and terrible, will say, make sure you guys also go to joshuakemble.com. I showed it at the top, the newspaper article I'm in, but if you want to read it, it's a pretty cool interview. And so make sure you go to joshuakemble.com and check out that interview I did about Jacob's apartment. It's kind of fun. So.
Yeah.
And I'm vain, and I have to admit, it's hard to get not get a kick out of somebody taking the time to write an article about your stuff. It's just a flattering thing.
Oh yeah, that's cool, man.
So when you guys are out there, go write articles about us all the time. We just get really big egos, and then we start being like, we worked hard to get here. We had no circumstances that helped us. And then we can have butlers and have them bring us wine twice a day.
Yes.
That's really what we're aiming for here, you guys.
That's my goal. Yeah.
See, this is where I do wish I had some weird point person who would go with whatever crazy idea I had, because I'm right at that point while live streaming, if somebody just appeared with a bottle of wine and a glass and I was like, thank you, that would be the ultimate way to end it.
Yeah it would be that would be ideal. So.
All right, Corey, have a good night.
Thanks for having me on.
Everybody in the chats, have a good night as well. I hope you guys are having success on your art, and I'll see you tomorrow on the next live stream. Goodbye. Oh my goodness. It's the eternal end broadcast.